I couldn't believe my eyes. My heart pounded dully in my chest, as if someone had clenched it in an icy grip. The words I was hearing tore me apart from the inside, but I couldn't look away. Are you insane? Jenna's voice was breathless, almost a whisper. Do you want him to find out? She stood in the corner of the kitchen, her back to me, the phone pressed tightly to her ear. Her eyes were alight, not with fear, no, with excitement. I didn't even remember walking into the house. Normally, she would hear me come in, but this time, she was too caught up in the conversation. It's dangerous, she continued, but I like it. A wave of heat washed over me. My throat tightened. My fingers curled into fists. That was the moment my world split in two. I didn't hesitate. Who is that? She flinched, slowly turned to face me, as if she still couldn't quite believe I was there. Trevor? I stepped closer. My voice was calm, but inside, everything was boiling. You were talking to Trevor? She blinked. Too fast, too sharply. She moved her hand behind her back, hiding the phone. What? A nervous laugh, high-pitched and unnatural. That was Becky. I looked her straight in the eyes. Panic. She was trying to mask it with feigned ease, but I saw it. Don't lie to me, Jenna. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Mark, you're acting weird. Who? Was it? She swallowed, taking a step back. You're misunderstanding. I moved fast, grabbed her wrist. She jerked away, but I had already pulled the phone from her hand. The screen lit up with an incoming call. Trevor. I looked up. Jenna stood frozen, her face pale. She didn't say a word, but in that moment, everything was already clear. I slowly pressed the answer button and brought the phone to my ear. Hello, Trevor. Dead silence. The phone in my hand was hot, pulsing in sync with my racing heart. I waited. Seconds stretched out like thick syrup, sticky, agonizingly slow. But no answer came. The call ended. I lowered the phone and stared at the screen. Jenna said nothing. She was looking at me, wide-eyed, like a deer caught in headlights. Her breathing was uneven, her cheeks flushed, not with embarrassment, with fear. I couldn't believe this was happening. I couldn't grasp the fact that my wife stood in front of me, pale and trembling, and had a reason to be afraid. Well? My voice was low, almost threatening. I barely recognized it. She swallowed. Mark, it's not what you think. I let out a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. Really? I turned the screen toward her. Then explained to me why when I answered. Your dear Trevor thought it best to stay silent and hang up? Jenna pressed her lips together. It's just... What? She couldn't find the words. I'm waiting, Jenna. I stepped closer. Just say it. Who is he? She turned away, covering her face with her hands. It's a mistake. Something inside me snapped. A mistake? My voice broke into a harsh, bitter chuckle. So you accidentally talked to another man while thinking I wasn't home? Or you accidentally whispered that you liked the thrill? She flinched but still said nothing. Tell me the truth. Jenna took a deep breath, but instead of answering, she lunged forward, trying to snatch the phone from my hands. I dodged. Don't you dare. I gripped it tighter. Trying to erase something? Delete your messages? No. I just... Her voice trembled. I tapped the screen, opening the latest texts. And there they were. Jenna, I want you. Trevor, you know where to find me. Jenna, I can't, but I love the risk. Jesus Christ. My voice sounded foreign. I felt my world begin to collapse. I looked at her. Are you cheating on me? She pressed her lips together but didn't answer. I stepped closer, forcing her to meet my gaze. Say it. Mark. Say it. God damn it. Jenna sucked in a sharp breath, her fists clenched. I didn't cheat on you. I closed my eyes, trying to keep control. Then what is this? She was shaking. It's just flirting. I slowly shook my head. Flirting? My voice was cold as ice. You call this flirting? You tell him you want him. Whisper on the phone about how much you love the risk, and that's flirting? She pressed her lips together. We didn't cross the line. I let go of the phone. It hit the table with a dull thud. Didn't cross the line? I repeated, staring at her. She nodded quickly. It was just a game. Just emotions. I didn't. And that was when I realized. She believed that. In her mind, this wasn't cheating. In her eyes, she was just playing. Rage drowned everything. I want you. The words burned into my vision, searing my mind. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My wife stood before me. The woman I had spent 10 years with, the mother of my children, the person I had entrusted my life to. And now, between us, lay something foreign, vile, sticky, like filth that could never be washed away. She didn't speak. She stood there, biting her lip, waiting for me to say something. I slowly lifted my gaze. This is flirting, right? Jenna stiffened. Mark. No, tell me. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was hoarse, metallic, hollow. Is this flirting? She didn't answer. I clenched the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. You were just having fun? I stepped toward her. Just spicing up the boring family life? She swallowed nervously. It's not what you think. I laughed. A low, bitter sound, void of humor. Really? I shook my head. So you didn't want him? You didn't think about him while you were with me? Her lips trembled. You didn't imagine him touching you? Looking at you? I saw her shoulders shake. Mark, please. Please? I gripped the phone even tighter. What exactly are you asking for, Jenna? Her eyes shimmered. It didn't mean anything. I laughed again. Nothing? I turned the screen toward her. You call this nothing? She looked away. I took a deep breath. All right, let's do this. I scrolled through the messages and opened her photo gallery. And that's when I saw it. The pictures. Jenna. In a hotel room. She wasn't naked, but I hadn't seen her like this in a long time. New lingerie. Tousled hair. Lips parted from what? Desire? Anticipation? And the worst part, it was a selfie. She took it herself. For him. My world collapsed. Jesus Christ. My voice cracked. You sent this to him? Jenna let out a choked sob. Mark. Answer me. She covered her face with her hands. Yes. I closed my eyes. The air ceased to exist. Everything disappeared. Just me, her, and this confession that shattered me into pieces. I stepped back, as if she had physically struck me. You're serious? Jenna was sobbing, but I didn't feel pity anymore. Just ice-cold rage. I slowly placed the phone on the table. Do you love him? Her head snapped up. No. I smirked. So you're just a whore, then? She pressed her lips together, and for a split second, something flickered in her eyes. Something I hadn't expected. Anger. It's not that simple, Mark. I jerked my head up. Are you serious right now? She clenched her fists. I didn't ask for this to happen. Oh, of course. I nodded. It just happened. She ran a hand through her hair, her breathing uneven. I got lost. I looked at her like I was seeing her for the first time. You got lost. She nodded, wiping her tears. I never wanted to hurt you, but you did. She flinched but didn't argue. I took a deep breath. Was he in that hotel room with you? She slowly closed her eyes. Yes. I shut my eyes, and something inside my chest snapped. Jenna let out a shaky breath. We just kissed. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her. I never meant for it to go this far. I took a step back. Mark, please. I wasn't listening anymore. I turned and headed for the door. She rushed after me. Where are you going? I stopped at the doorway. I don't know. She grabbed my arm. Mark. Her voice was trembling. Please don't go. I looked at her. That's not your choice anymore, Jenna. And I walked out. I didn't remember getting into the car. My hands were shaking. Rain pounded against the windshield, streetlights blurring in my vision. My head was buzzing. Something dark, corrosive, was raging inside me. I had seen those photos. I had heard her confession. I walked out because if I had stayed, I would have said something that could never be taken back. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen. Jenna. I clenched my teeth. Ignored the call. She called again, and again, and again. I cursed under my breath, gripping the phone tighter. At some point, the ringing stopped. A flicker of relief rose in my chest. But then, a message. I didn't want to read it. I didn't want to see a single word from her. But my fingers still swiped the screen. A voice message. I closed my eyes. 1 second. 2. And I hit play. Mark. Her voice was trembling. A muffled sob. I know you don't want to hear me. But please, just listen. I stared into the darkness. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I ruined everything. But you need to know the truth. The whole truth. My chest tightened. This wasn't just flirting. It was more. But it's not what you think. I gripped the phone harder. Not what I think. Please come home. Or tell me where you are. I'll tell you everything. I shut my eyes. Rage flared inside me. She wanted to explain? After everything I had seen? I was ready to ignore her. Delete the message. Block her so I wouldn't have to hear, see, or know. But instead, I turned the car around. I had to hear it. I had to know the whole truth. When I walked into the house, Jenna was sitting on the couch, clutching the same phone she had used to send me that message. Her eyes were red. Her hair was a mess. She jumped up the moment she saw me. You came. I shut the door behind me. Talk. She swallowed hard. Mark. Talk. Jenna. She bit her lip. He didn't just show up in my life out of nowhere. I stared at her coldly. No? She shook her head. I knew him before. I stopped breathing. What? Jenna wrapped her arms around herself. Before you, Mark. Before us. I tensed. Keep going. She shut her eyes. Trevor. He was my first. I froze. A cold wave washed over my spine. Jesus Christ. Jenna quickly shook her head. I wasn't looking for him. I didn't even know he was back in town. I couldn't believe this. So you're telling me you just randomly ran into your first love and immediately jumped into a hotel bed with him? Her head snapped up. I didn't sleep with him. I clenched my jaw. But you wanted to. She turned away. Silence. I exhaled sharply. Where did you see him? She bit her lip. At the reunion. I raised my brows. What? That night, when I told you I was meeting up with old friends. He was there. I slowly shook my head. You lied to me. Another choked sob. It was just nostalgia, Mark. I didn't think it would go this far. But it did. She covered her face with her hands. Damn it. I ran a hand over my face. You met up with him again? Yes. How many times? She squeezed her eyes shut. 3. I swallowed. Where? She slowly lifted her gaze to me. Mark. Where? Jenna? Her breathing grew uneven. The hotel? I gripped the back of a chair for support. You told me you didn't cross the line. She raised a trembling hand. I didn't. You met him at a hotel, and that's not crossing the line? She pressed her palms to her face. We only talked. I didn't know what I wanted. I shook my head. You knew. She gritted her teeth. I was trying to fight it. Oh yeah? I let out a bitter chuckle. And fighting it meant sending him lingerie pictures? Her shoulders slumped. I don't know why I did that. I ran my tongue over my teeth. You know. She pressed a hand to her chest. Mark, please. I slowly stepped closer. She looked at me with pain in her eyes. But I didn't care. I leaned in, our faces inches apart. If you wanted him so badly, my voice dropped to a whisper, why didn't you go all the way? Tears filled her eyes. Because. She sucked in a shaky breath. Because I love you, Mark. I didn't flinch. I just looked at her. You love me? She nodded, her lips trembling. Then why did you destroy us? She broke down in sobs. I turned and walked toward the door. Mark. I stopped. She ran after me, grabbing my arm. Don't go. I looked at her and said only one word. Too late. I stepped out of the house, shutting the door behind me, and inhaled the cold night air. My chest tightened so hard it felt like my lungs were about to burst. I walked away, left her there, trembling, in tears, begging me not to go. But what was I supposed to do? Forgive? Swallow it? Pretend it never happened? No. I walked down the street, not knowing where I was going. The car was still in the driveway, but I had no desire to get behind the wheel. The same thoughts hammered in my head. She met up with him. She sent him pictures. They were in a hotel. I wanted to rip that voice message apart, throw my phone into the gutter, erase those words from my memory. But one of them stuck. I love you, Mark. What the hell? If you love me, then why? Why did you destroy everything? The phone buzzed again in my pocket. I stopped. Jenna. I clenched my teeth. The call ended. A few seconds later, the screen lit up again. Another voice message. I stared at it for a few seconds, then pressed play. Mark. I can't do this. Her voice was hoarse, trembling. I can't just let you go. I'll do something to prove to you that you're the only one who matters to me. What did she mean? I knew her. She wasn't the kind of person who gave up easily. If she said she was going to do something, it meant she already had. I turned around and started walking back, my pace quickening with each step. When I opened the door, the house was silent. Jenna? No answer. I walked into the living room and stopped dead. Her phone was on the coffee table, unlocked. I narrowed my eyes. She never left her phone unprotected. I picked it up, and almost immediately, a new notification popped up. Incoming message from Trevor. I knew I shouldn't, but, hell, I couldn't stop myself. I opened the conversation. Trevor, are you sure? Jenna, yes. It's the only way. My hands trembled. I quickly scrolled up. They had been texting for the past 2 days. Trevor, are you really ready for this? Jenna, if it proves to him that I'm not lying, yes. I inhaled sharply. What the hell was she planning? The sound of an engine snapped me out of it. I rushed to the window. Jenna was pulling into the driveway. I watched as she sat in the car for a few seconds before finally gripping the door handle and stepping out. She was wearing the black coat I had given her for our anniversary. Her hair was neatly styled, a light gloss on her lips. But the most important thing, she looked determined. I opened the door before she even reached the porch. She stopped in her tracks. You came back. Where were you? She pressed her lips together. Mark. Where were you? I saw her swallow. I held up her phone. I read your messages. Her eyes widened. You. What did you mean by the only way, Jenna? She ran a hand through her hair, a nervous tick. It's not what you think. I clenched my teeth. Don't start that again. She exhaled. I met with him. Something inside me coiled tight. Where? She looked away. At a cafe. I took a sharp step forward. You met up with him to what? Prove to me that you're not sleeping with him? Her head snapped up. Yes. I stared at her, trying to understand if she was serious. And how exactly was that supposed to convince me? Her breathing quickened. Because I told him it was over. A chill ran through me. You told him it was over? She nodded. Yes. I held her gaze. And he just accepted that? She hesitated. He wasn't happy about it. I narrowed my eyes. Wasn't happy? She turned away. Mark, I was trying to do the right thing. So now that I found out, you decided to cut things off because you suddenly remembered you wanted me? She bit her lip. I let out a cold chuckle. Interesting. What? I raised her phone and pressed play. Trevor's voice came through the speaker. Are you sure? I looked at her. He didn't believe you. Jenna clenched her hands into fists. He said that if I really loved you, I wouldn't have to prove anything. I leaned in. And what about you? She slowly lifted her gaze. I told him I love you. I studied her face. Do you really believe that? She opened her mouth, then shut it. I waited. Suddenly, her hands balled into fists. What do you want, Mark? For me to beg for your forgiveness? To fall to my knees? I narrowed my eyes. I want an answer, Jenna. She swallowed hard. I love you. I leaned in closer. But you wanted him. She said nothing. Admit it. Her lips pressed together. I grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at me. Tell the truth. Did you want him? Her eyes filled with tears. Yes. I slowly nodded. Now, finally, you've told the truth. She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. I let her go. What now, Mark? Her voice was raw. I looked at her. Now we figure out what happens next. She swallowed. Does that mean there's still a chance? I inhaled deeply. I don't know. The house behind me was lit. Jenna was standing there, waiting for my answer. But I couldn't walk inside. Everything she said, everything I had learned, it changed nothing. The fact remained. She had wanted someone else. She had lied. She had made a choice. Now it was my turn. I ran a hand down my face, took a deep breath, and finally stepped out of the car. When I walked inside, Jenna immediately stood up from the couch. Mark. I closed the door behind me. I've thought it over. She froze. I saw the hope in her eyes. I can't forget this, Jenna. She pressed her back against the couch, her hands shaking. What are you saying? I inhaled. We're done. She shook her head. No, Mark. Wait. I can't live with this. But I chose you. I scoffed. No, you just lost him. She bit her lip, her eyes welling with tears. I love you. You betrayed me. She took a step forward. We can fix this. I stepped back. It's too late. She froze, as if I had struck her. I felt something break inside me. Once, I had loved her more than life itself. But now, I just wanted to leave. I walked past her, upstairs, grabbed a few things. When I came back down, she was still standing in the same spot. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. I met her eyes. You already did. I stepped outside, inhaling the crisp night air. This time, I didn't look back.